through them one by one, or go through them one by one?
That means that way we won't violate any open meetings.
The Tuesday, March 1st, 2016 meeting of the Plainfield Plan Commission is in session. All rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. May we have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Paris. Commissioner Segerbrook.
Here.
Commissioner Renzi.
Here.
Mr. Kiefer.
Here.
Mr. Heinen. Commissioner Green.
Here.
Chairman Sokoviak.
Here.
Park District. School District. Fire District. Library District.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners, you have from your packets the minutes of our last meeting, that of February 2nd, 2016. There's a bunch of corrections that Dan has given to Mary Lee. Does anybody else have corrections or additions?
So, let me just, a couple of them maybe. So the first one I had was on they're both on the new business cases. So on page 4, basically third full paragraph down, there's kind of an incomplete sentence. The architect was answering a question. Does anybody remember what? I think the idea would be, let's see. The fact that you're using the same materials they used in the Meyer, basically. Is that kind of what you think it would say?
Yeah. They were using compatible materials.
Compatible with Meyer or something to that
Yeah.
effect, so, okay. That was one.
Yeah, it was with the existing building that was already up, because they had already developed those.
Well, it already kind of says that in the
Yeah.
prior sentence, but then he kind of, unless that last sentence just doesn't mean anything, but I'll just say existing development on something to that effect. So on the page 5, there's 2 votes under the Meyer case that I think are 7-0, not 7-1. And on the last case, the Parkland, third sentence in, I think the spelling of Gilmore Road is, I think it's M-O-R-E, I believe, it's just a spelling.
Oh, yeah.
And then the paragraph at the bottom, just for consistency on page 5, the first statement, they talk about how many, it says children, and I'm thinking that we want to say students, because later on we say students, so just to be consistent, so we understand there were students, not just any children. And then it says living within a 5-mile, and I assume we'd add radius there. So 30 students living within a 5-mile radius of this building. Does that make sense?
Yep.
And then I think there's one more. Okay. And then at the end of that case on page 6, third paragraph from the end, we should probably just add in the word parking. We said accessible space. We should probably just say parking space in 2 spots there. That's it.
Anyone else? With that then, the minutes will be accepted as corrected or amended. Is there anyone in the audience who care to ask a question or make a comment regarding something that is not on our agenda tonight? Something not on our agenda. Let the record show that there was no response. Development report, staff.
The village board has not held a formal board meeting since the last plan commission meeting. They did meet last week to provide a general overview of the village's proposed budget, which will be coming forward for public hearing and formal consideration later this month. Staff does wish to note the current budget proposes a new staff member for the planning department and economic development specialist. So a new staff person whose primary focus will be on recruiting additional business and development opportunities in the village. So that's exciting. That's subject to future board consideration and obviously before the budget is formally approved, pending some modifications. But beyond that, there's been no action on current development projects. There will be a large agenda next Monday due to the backlog since the last board meeting.
Okay, thank you, Jonathan. Under new business. Case number 1713-021116.SAMU Union. This is the Target Art Lots, and the request is for special use for drive-through window. Staff.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As a special use request, this case does require a public hearing, and staff would ask that the record reflect the appropriate notice has been published and mailed in accordance with state statute and local ordinance. The subject site, just to give the commission a reminder, a refresher, the general context, this is the Kensington Center South, a commercial project anchored by Target and Ross Dress for Less at the southwest corner of Route 59 and 127th Street. The applicant was before the commission mid-year last year in the summer to create an outlot in the parking area, some surplus or underutilized parking, really capture an opportunity to introduce another retail building within the shopping center in an area of parking that generally was underutilized. So the new retail buildings were approved as a subdivision and site plan approval just south of the main project entrance there from 127th Street. There's a kind of pair of twin buildings, approximately 14,000 square feet, I believe, in total, that were approved. And we've got kind of two models for approving drive-throughs. One model is to approve them kind of speculatively in advance when the project comes through for site plan review, as we did, I believe, at our last meeting for the new retail outlet at Meyer. Or we can approve a building and then wait until the specific end user comes in and then consider the special use request once we have an end user identified to verify that there will be a drive-through window operation. In this case, the petitioner does have an end user lined up, and they are requesting approval for a drive-through window operation, actually at both buildings as an option at both buildings. So staff has prepared an analysis according to the findings that are required for a special use. And as the commission is well aware, before the commission can recommend approval of a special use, it must determine, based on the evidence and information at hand, that two findings of facts can be made. Those findings are, the first, that the special use will not be injurious to the use and enjoyment of other property in the immediate area for the purposes already permitted, nor would the special use diminish property values within the neighborhood. Staff believes that the options for the drive-through window operation can easily be accommodated in the site plan. There's ample room for stacking, for bypass lanes. There are no sensitive uses in the area in terms of residential uses, people who might be impacted by what minimal noise could be generated, headlights, that sort of thing, the typical impacts that we generally consider when looking at a drive-through window operation. So staff is very confident that the proposed drive-through operations would not be detrimental to the use or enjoyment of adjacent property. And then as to the second finding of fact, that the special use will not impede normal and orderly development in the area, nor for uses that are already permitted in the zoning district. Once again, staff feels the drive-through windows are entirely compatible. It's consistent with the trend of development that we see in the area, with a large number of drive-through window operations for banks, for restaurants. There's a pharmacy pickup window. So extensive track record for drive-through window operations in the area. And furthermore, at least in this specific center, it's fully built out. So the possibility for a negative impact on orderly development in the adjacent area is clearly minimal. So I know it's a very brief review or very brief analysis, but in conclusion, staff believes that the information is present to support the findings of fact to recommend approval of the special use. And certainly prior to any questions by the commission or input from the public, staff would be seeking a favorable recommendation. And that concludes the staff report.
Okay, thank you, Jonathan. Who's representing the petitioner tonight? Yes, would you approach that microphone over there, please? Would you raise your right hand, please? Is any testimony you give tonight the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you? Okay, very good. Would you please state your name and spell it for a recording secretary, and then proceed with any comments that you may have?
Sure. Ryan Murphy with Vequity, RyanMurphy. Don't have a lot to
Would you
add.
tap that microphone, make sure it's on?
Sure.
The other one. There you go.
Okay. Don't have much to add other than what John did. As he mentioned, we were in close to a year ago now over the summer. The plan before you is based on tenant demand to add the drive-through. This plan does differ in that it does add, even though we've added the drive-through, it adds a few more parking spaces than were there before because it's a more efficient plan. We've also changed the buildings from brick and EFS to all brick. Those are the three major changes you're seeing in this plan versus the old. With that, if there are any questions, I'm available to answer them.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone in the audience care to ask a question, make a comment regarding this case? Let the record show that there was no response. Commissioners, you're free to ask questions of staff or the petitioner.
Jonathan, just curious, it appears that there's a good distance between the closest house to the south and the Kensington subdivision there and the drive-through. It's a considerable distance. Are you aware of how much distance is there?
It's several hundred feet at a minimum. I could calculate it as the commission considers the case here, and as a additional point of interest. There's a building intervening, so the Mark Peters Jewelers building. So there's some additional buffering or
Fence as well.
Yeah.
use that would mitigate for any potential additional noise spill. So just for information.
Yeah, the south side of the parcel has a fence and a landscape buff, not a berm, but a landscape buffer by the fence.
This is essentially, for all intents and purposes, on Route 59, whereas the subdivision is considerably off western.
So there shouldn't be any intrusive light or noise then? Okay.
Does this answer the questions you had earlier, Dan?
Not really. So John, last summer what we looked at, did that actually create the two lots for the two buildings, or the two lots have actually been created?
The subdivision plat has been approved. I believe it's a plat for one lot, a single
One
lot.
So we're gonna put two buildings on one lot?
That's correct, at this time.
But, so then are we only looking at this drive-through right now for the north building and not for the south building?
It's staff's wish. I know it's not clear in the staff report. It's my request that the commission evaluate a drive-through at both buildings
Oh, okay.
as
Because they're both on
alternatives.
lot one then,
And so I apologize that was not clearly articulated in the staff report.
You might want to clean that up before you go to the village board with that. And also, this, the picture that's on the screen here, we don't really have a copy of that in our packet. And,
Yeah.
do we?
It's,
Oh.
yeah, it's in this third page.
This is it, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, we've got it.
I just had mine turned different directions.
I don't have it.
Oh, he's correct, he doesn't have it.
I don't have it.
Everybody else does.
Okay, that's all right.
He's-
No, that's all right. I understand. I got this, I got the screen here. Yeah.
Okay, so.
But I just want to make sure that was included when it goes, if it goes forward to the village board.
Okay, so to clarify then, we're actually talking about the drive-through on both buildings. then?
Yeah, if the commission could keep that in mind and evaluate both, either one or the other, or the possibility that there would be a drive-through at both, on
Okay.
both buildings is.
Did we hear you have an end user identified for one of these or both of these?
We do for one right now.
And you're not willing to divulge it, or?
Soon.
Soon, okay. We know how that goes.
Lisa's out there doing design drawings right
Okay.
now based on your approval.
The one thing I'll bring up is last summer, we talked about the fact that we did not have a second access point to this site. You've only got the one, and unfortunately, the way it lays out, it's not even really well lined up with the Target drive aisles on their lot. Did this question come up last summer? Is there not a possibility to do a cross-access easement to the south end of that Mark Peters lot?
Yeah, there is. Yeah, you can drive through there.
Well,
I
no,
don't-
but from this,
Not-
I'm
not-
saying, do a cross-access easement and connect these.
No,
Now.
both.
It's not shown that way, but is
Not,
there a
not in the
possibility?
not through the parking lots.
Why not?
I mean, there isn't, you're right, it's not shown in the
Right,
parking
but
lots.
could there be? I don't know if that question came up last summer.
I-
As a second access point.
It would have to be west of the existing jewelry store, I believe.
Oh, yeah, it would have to be into their
There
parking.
is an aisle.
But that, and
West
that,
of the jewelry
but
store.
that would go into
Uh-huh.
the drive-through then,
Well, it's kind of where
potentially.
their,
The-
dumpster, they got a dumpster enclosure shown there, and, I mean, of course, normally we do try to create cross-access points between lots, but,
we may just do like for Ira Jones where they have it like the second access chained off. We may want to do that by the jewelry store then, because as it appears that if we do a secondary access there, it's going to go right into the drive-through.
That's where they have parking along that currently.
Probably so, it would affect them, yeah.
Well,
That's what I'm saying.
definitely would.
So
I don't-
there'd be a bit of a problem if we had that, but we could create an easement for emergency vehicles so they would have the two accesses, if that's what we're really concerned about.
Well, I mean, back when that,
Authorized vehicles can go through there.
Is that, I don't know, is it necessary? Because, you know, we keep talking about access points, but that western area is essentially,
It's a driveway of,
yeah.
that goes north and south. It goes right behind, Mark, Peters Jewelry. And connects with another driveway running east and west.
yeah, but it doesn't connect to this property, that's what I'm saying. There's still only one entry point to this property.
And look at the drawing,
Well-
there's no cross-access shown.
Right.
And we had discussed, I think, in a lot of detail about the north just isn't a possibility.
Right,
with
we
traffic
talked about
coming
trying
in
to do
and
it up
exit.
there where that drive, yeah, and it's
I
so
don't
close
know.
to the main drive entrance.
That's what we're talking about. Either.
I also was happy that it doesn't match up with the Target lot, because I didn't want to see this become like a T intersection with cars coming in from Target right into this lot. So
Right.
I'm glad it doesn't match up perfectly.
Right.
I guess while we're talking about traffic flow, I guess first staff for the, let's see, it'd be the southerly, yeah. One, there, the south, yeah, there's about stacking for like 4 or 5 cars only. And that's, you think that'd be sufficient?
Yeah, I think the zoning code standard is for 5, and you could make 5 work there.
'Cause I'm just thinking, since we're identified, like, I know Aurelio's, you can go and pick up pizza, and it's rare that you have more than a 2-car backup for that. But if you have like a Starbucks or a Dunkin' Donuts or the McDonald's, you might have 10 people in line for that one, depending on the nature of the
Especially
drive-through.
Prime times, yeah.
Yeah, so that's a bit concerning, and that's, again, why I said maybe just an emergency vehicle only drive through directly with that, because there's gonna be enough traffic trying to negotiate around there. Because I think the McDonald's on 59 to the north, that's by the Walmart, when the people line up there, they tend to line up along what's parking too, and it can create a bit of a mess. And so I'm just thinking aloud that if we have a similar situation in the south and only one emergency access comes in from the north, that might be a bit much for any access, and that's my concern and the question I had for staff.
Okay.
Then I switched to the north. That has larger stacking, but again, maybe I can't read it correctly. There appears to be an arrow for both directions to go immediately towards the south. If the drive-through is going north, who's gonna get there and go south?
I guess it'd be yeah, it doesn't make sense.
And so, I mean, I'm just looking at that, if we have a southbound lane and everybody is supposed to be pushed to the north, I'm not sure if we really want to have a southbound lane. And then also with the stacking, the way that's configured, I don't know if anybody wanting to get out by going north can really access the service lane to the north, because they may end up in line to go through the drive-through and have to wait for the drive-through to advance to go into
Or
the
the
service
bypass,
lane.
yeah.
To go the bypass
So,
lane.
Mr. Chairman, if I may address just a couple of those points.
ahead.
One of the changes that occurred with proposing the drive-through window operation here is the orientation of the building, and the main customer entrance was shifted from the Route 59 side to the Target side. So that's worth noting. The main customer entrance will now be on the west elevation of the building.
Okay,
So the parking that's in this area will most likely be the last parking to be occupied, whether it's employees or just won't be utilized. In terms of the dual direction of traffic here, I think that's to indicate that if somebody parks in one of these spots here if they want to back up and head south and out this way, they would have the opportunity to do that.
And then what about the people wanting to go to the bypass lane? The traffic, I mean, wouldn't we want to, I guess, figure out orientation if you want to, my counterclockwise, probably clockwise to you. I'm thinking, isn't it gonna get confusing if we have people going this way from here, here, and from here, here, and all around here? Wouldn't we just want to, like, route everybody down the middle and out that way? Wouldn't it be easier to do?
Not quite sure I'm following your suggestion.
Okay.
The concerned people coming through
Everybody
the,
comes in this way, they're heading towards the east.
Okay.
And then, depending on which way they wanna go, building 1 or building 2, that would be the way they turn, and rather than have it, just have it one way that way and one way that way, so any exit should be out around on this service road and out around on this service road, so there wouldn't be any crossing of going both ways to there. I'm thinking that might be a tad confusing if we just let everybody drive every which way.
okay, that's something we can definitely take a look at. Again, I would foresee, lower utilization of the parking in the rear, so the folks who continue east and want to turn right would be probably just primarily folks who are looking to park, maybe employees or, but I understand your suggestion, maybe it would be a better circulation pattern to have it one way around the building, so if you wanted to park back there for some reason, you utilize the bypass lane and head south, kind of counterclockwise around the building. If I understand your suggestion.
Yes, some way, cause it just looks a little helter-skelter.
I think one way to achieve that recommendation would be to change the parking that's parallel to Route 59 to angled parking, which would really dictate a one-way traffic pattern.
Or even just widen to the east of that, the buildings, the bypass lane, if you just widen that out a little bit where it's not indicated right now.
For the north building, there's certainly plenty of room to be able to achieve two full egress lanes.
Well, since, and you mentioned that, how much parking has been added since last summer? We didn't really get a new parking analysis,
Yeah,
so.
I don't want to misquote. I believe it's 4 spaces.
4. And where do you think those were picked up mainly?
A lot of it is along 59.
Along 59. Okay. Well, going back to the idea of the second access point, to be honest, especially now that you're saying the orientation of the buildings is to the facing towards Target, I guess, not towards 59, then on the southern building, I'm not sure why we'd want to put the dumpster enclosure over on the corner, in so-called front of the building. I'd prefer to see it directly opposite the north building. In other words, just mirror that layout. You've got to have the dumpster enclosures on both sides, so a truck could pull up and service either one there. And you'd probably lose one spot there. So, instead of 7 in that row, you'd have 6. But then your dumpster enclosures would be together. They could service either one, service them, both, together, however they're going to do it. But if we take that out of that corner, that would give us the opportunity to put a right-in only fire access lane that would essentially line up with your so-called bypass lane or fire access lane on the south. And that would give us a second entrance point to the site. It's limited because it would be just a kind of a right-in. But if the response was coming from the south, obviously it'd give them another way to get in there if something was going on right at the main driveway. So I would like to propose that.
That idea does have merit.
And it has little to no effect on the site plan, other than just moving the dumpster enclosure and
would that
losing one
cause-
space.
Would that cause confusion at all, you think, for the way they have the traffic flow into the drive-through for that building? If you had people trying to cut in?
No, it would, if you do a fire lane.
You
I
would
mean,
just
you
have
could-
it-
You would fence it or gate it in some.
Okay, so it would be open.
Fire department
Got it,
only
got it.
access, emergency access.
Got it.
Wouldn't be like a regular drive lane, no.
Sure.
Have it controlled. So I would like to propose that as a change, since we're
Yeah.
looking
How
at.
do the other commissioners feel about that?
Yeah, that sounds like a good idea.
I mean,
Helps
it's
the
not
traffic flow.
ideal because it's not really that remote on the site, but
Where
it's,
were you suggesting that the
where that dumpster
current-
enclosure
where would
shows
that
at
go?
the
Yeah,
south,
where would that be relocated to?
opposite the one on the north building, you would just put them opposite each other. And, Yeah, right there.
I see that, but
Just
then,
do the same, mirror that same layout, and then the
Yeah.
truck could pull up and service either
but aren't we
one.
kind of, isn't the village a little reluctant to have the dumpsters and trash enclosures facing out towards main thoroughfares?
Well,
like
it's already
59?
got, they've already got the one there, and,
Yeah.
and they're gonna do assume a nice landscaping patch along 59 anyway, but my point is, if we're
Alright.
trying to have the fronts of the buildings facing towards Target, why would we put the dumpster enclosure out in essentially what's the front of the building, you know what I'm saying?
Good point. Yeah, good point.
Yeah, I'm not against that.
Well, I've marked that up, and I'll hand that in too.
Any other issues, other comments or questions?
Are we over parked then, Johnny, with what they've added, or are we, how much above above the ordinance are we?
You know, I didn't include that analysis for the special use because the, you know, site plan had been approved previously, but
Right.
I recall there was discussion of potentially even reducing the parking, and at the time, I think we were trying to hit a certain parking number for the end user that was
Right.
required, that was well in excess of the code
So
minimum.
that's what I'm thinking now, that we potentially have 2 restaurants or 2 drive-throughs. I'm just wondering, you know, I assume, obviously, we could probably give up 1 space anyway, so, you know, I'm sure over parked enough for that, so.
Anybody else got anything?
Entertain a motion?
Do we want to add a stipulation to this motion that Jonathan has provided us? That they move the dumpster and provide an emergency access in that corner? Or do we just want to leave
As a
that
suggestion.
administrative? We can leave that administratively also.
Yeah, well, it's kind of the same thing with the parking along 59. I mean, maybe it could become diagonal and, you know, change that flow, which, same thing. I mean, I don't know if it needs.
Why don't we leave that administratively and
Okay.
just go with what Jonathan has provided us?
There's nothing else when the final plat does come through, when the end user is seen, we can then see what's the final plat.
Oh, you mean the site plan review?
Yeah.
True.
Because he's been here and he's
Yeah.
heard what concerns we have
Yeah.
for it, so I think that when we have the site plan review, that'll give us another
Good point.
opportunity.
Good point, John.
Okay, I move we adopt the findings of fact of staff as the findings of fact of the Plan Commission, and furthermore recommend approval of the special use for the drive-through windows. Should it be windows?
Yes.
Okay. For Lot 1 of the Equity subdivision.
Second.
A motion's been made and seconded to recommend to the village board that that they adopt the findings of fact of staff as the finding of fact of the plan commission, and furthermore, recommend approval of the special use for drive-through windows for Lot 1 of the Equity subdivision, otherwise known as Target. Vote by roll call, please.
Commissioner Green,
Yes.
Commissioner Segerbrook,
Yes.
Commissioner Renzi,
Yes.
Mr. Kiefer,
Yes.
Chairman Subkoviak.
Yes. The motion to recommend approval of the special use for drive-through windows is carried. This will go forward to the village board for their consideration, but I'm not sure when it's gonna make it. They're in systems overload right now. So be in touch with staff to know what night that you're on the agenda.
Thank you.
Case number 1715-021816 dot P. Paul slash F. Frank P. Paul, otherwise known as the Boulevard. The request is for preliminary and final plats, and location US 30 and Route 55. Staff.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and as you noted, the subject site here is located at the intersection of US Route 30 and I-55. It's a commercial project that we've referred to as the Boulevard here over the years. What's before the commission tonight is simply a preliminary and final plat of subdivision to create 3 lots that would really facilitate some planning and some economic development efforts that are underway on the part of the applicant as well as staff. This is a subdivision that was really initiated at the village's request to create kind of a blank canvas that would separate what we see as the initial near-term commercial development opportunity It would separate out a creek as an environmental encumbrance and allow that to be platted and isolated in its own lot. And then there would be a balance of the property to the north that could be future commercial, it could be residential, or a number of uses for the third lot in the future. But really the effort and the request that's before the commission tonight is to formally subdivide the property to facilitate some efforts on the part of village staff as well as the applicant in pursuing future commercial development at this very important prime interstate frontage location here in the village. In terms of the analysis, it's very straightforward. Again, the subject site here in the proposed subdivision, it was approved for annexation by annexation agreement into the village a number of years back, I believe in 2007, and will ultimately be zoned B3 upon successful annexation and following the development. The subdivision plat includes Lot 1, which is kind of the lot that fronts Renwick, more of the longer term, or that's has some potential different uses. Will be approximately 80 acres. Lot 2 essentially encompasses the footprint of the Mink Creek there that bisects the property. It's approximately 15 acres. And then Lot 3 is the main, what we see as the main commercial parcel there, approximately 55 acres with the frontage on US Route 30. In terms of those lot sizes and everything, the proposed lotting meets the requirements of the subdivision code for frontage, lot size, and so forth. Really just a very straightforward subdivision. Of course, staff reminds the commission that any specific development proposal will be back before the Plan Commission for, at a minimum, site plan review. We would anticipate most likely a plan development and in all likelihood further re-subdivision of the commercial parcels. So this is really just a preliminary effort to pave the way and to facilitate some kind of behind the scenes or functional economic development outreach efforts on the part of staff and the applicant. But having said that, it is a priority for the village to try and pursue this project, and staff would again summarize that the subdivision meets the requirements of the zoning code and the subdivision code, and we would be seeking a favorable recommendation. That concludes the staff report.
Okay, thank you. Who's representing the petitioner tonight?
So as this is essentially a village requested or village initiated project, and as there are no significant outstanding issues, I don't believe it was necessary for the petitioner.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone in the audience who care to ask a question or make a comment regarding this case? Let the record show that there was no response. Okay, what is this, really a marketing thing to separate the two pieces so that it's easier to find a customer?
It will definitely facilitate economic development efforts. So just for some practical.
When a petitioner does come forward with for a site plan review, let them be aware that we are going to be extremely careful about the effects to those two streams. That we'll be looking at possible pollution and runoffs and whatnot into both the Mink Creek and the Lily Cache Creek. And commissioners have any questions of staff?
John, could you put that aerial photo up again? And just, some of us weren't on the
Again,
plan.
thank you, Marilee and Jonathan, for getting the aerial shots.
Yeah. I mean, some of us weren't on the commission back when the boulevard was originally proposed. Now, could you identify the part that's in Joliet? That's where the old truck stop was mainly, to the south?
Correct. So and thanks as well from myself to Marilee for the efforts here. So the portion that's within the black boundary here is within Plainfield.
Right.
The part to the south of that is within Joliet.
Okay. And
that's excluded from the subdivision.
Right. But, I mean, what is in their master plan for that area? Do you know? I mean, I assume we have some knowledge of that. I mean, is it set up to be commercial lots, or they really haven't done anything
Well, staff would anticipate that when the property develops, it will develop comprehensively.
Okay.
And so there will be a joint approval process.
Yeah, that's prime commercial
Right.
property.
Sure. So, and I'm, you know, with all the, obviously with the road work going on there now and everything else, I mean, it's a little hard to visualize how it's all
Yeah,
gonna
they're
end up.
using it as
you know.
a
Yeah.
swale bank.
Right,
gravel-
right,
And
right.
gravel bank.
Right. So in other words, you know, to think that, okay, just the one section that actually, you know, contacts Route 30 there, you know, that may or may not be the only access point into the site when it's all developed ultimately, if something's done cooperatively with Joliet. I mean,
Correct, yeah. I think the original concept and how I would foresee it playing out in the future is to have a joint approval process with a comprehensive.
Well, see, there's already a light there, so
right.
you can't put another light very close.
Right. But I know they're reconfiguring, let's see, I'm not even sure, I haven't seen the road plans, how that all changes. But
Yeah, I think the light is if you turn right, you turn onto the Joliet
road.
property. Well, you turn on, no, I think you,
Yeah, the light is for the,
no, there's two lights there.
Yep.
Because there's one light for the frontage road.
Right.
And there's another light that if you were to turn right, if you look at that aerial, that will lead you into the Joliet area. Where the cursor is right now
There's
is
light
nothing more
here.
than an open intersection
Right.
where traffic comes to a
You're
dead
right.
stop while someone tries to go left into that subdivision with the oncoming traffic. So originally, it had been planned, I think, to have all of that turned into multi-lane. I can't remember if it was 4 and a turn in and a turn out. But the state seems to be doing something.
Well, I think they're going ahead with the
So
full.
I don't
yeah.
know if that's the 4 lanes. Is that how, is IDOT building what was envisioned when we first approved the boulevard?
I can't speak to that, unfortunately.
I
it
think-
would appear that it's gonna be 6 lane there.
Well, I think
4
it's,
lanes of traffic either direction plus,
and then,
plus
center.
turn lanes.
Turn lanes, yeah.
Well,
Up to Renwick, right? Yeah, that's what my
Yeah.
understanding is. Right.
okay, well, obviously then, we still have some access concerns, because the only real access we appear to have would be, off of Route 30 would be where you go left into the houses, you would then go right into the boulevard, and that's really not now an entrance, and that's just north of 2 stoplights.
Yeah, but I think it'll have to be worked out, when we get the site plan, John.
Right, but I mean, it'll have to be worked out with Joliet,
Oh, yeah.
going
Well,
along
yes,
with it, because,
absolutely.
right, otherwise it'd never work.
Yeah.
I mean, I know the bridge over the creek was already, you know, widened it, so now when they
Yeah.
do the additional pavement,
Yeah.
it's already all set there, you know, but,
I suppose.
yeah, well, it appears like it's got plenty of room, so.
They've done the
They're back
bridge a
working
number of
on it
times.
again,
Yeah.
Right.
Just went by there yesterday.
So the subdivision is just legal descriptions. It doesn't change anything with the city of Joliet to the south or the flooding issues we have, right? Or the flooding issues.
No,
going.
just essentially takes one unsubdivided parcel as we have today and creates 3 lots that will,
As a point of interest, how much of that property is floodplain?
I don't have that
Okay.
acreage kind of
That
breakdown.
would, when they come in for site plan review at whatever point that is, that'll be very useful information.
Yeah, I know the original boulevard proposal, upon its approval by the board, had a specific site plan and had all the information laid out.
Well, Lily Cash Creek carries a humongous amount of water when you have a heavy rain. I don't know about Mink Creek. It does seem like it carries an awful lot of water also, because that runs parallel to Renwick Road for a short distance, and I have noticed that it carries a good deal of water when we have heavy rain. So when they do get into the development of that, we will be looking at the engineering, the runoff water engineering very closely. Any other discussion? Okay, then the chair would welcome a motion on the preliminary plan.
I move we recommend approval of the preliminary plat of the Boulevard subdivision, subject to the following two stipulations. 1, compliance with the requirements of the village engineer, and 2, compliance with the requirements of the Plainfield Fire Protection District.
Second.
A motion's been made and seconded to recommend to the village board the approval of the preliminary plat of the Boulevard subdivision, subject to the two stipulations found in the planner's report. Vote by roll call, please.
Commissioner Kiefer,
Yes.
Commissioner Renzi,
Yes.
Mr. Segerbrook,
Yes.
Mr. Green,
Yes.
Chairman Sokoviak.
Yes. The motion to recommend approval of the preliminary plat is carried. Regarding the final plat.
I can move that we recommend approval of the final plat of subdivision of the Boulevard subdivision, subject to the two stipulations set forth in the planner's report.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to recommend approval, recommend to the village board approval of the final plat of subdivision for the Boulevard subdivision, subject to the two stipulations found in the planner's report. Vote by roll call, please.
Commissioner Kiefer,
Yes.
Mr. Green,
Yes.
Mr. Segerbrook,
Yes.
Mr. Renzi,
Yes.
Chairman Sokoviak.
Yes. Motion to recommend approval of the final plat of subdivision for the Boulevard is carried. Both of these will go forward to the village board for their consideration when at the earliest convenience. Anybody got anything for the good of the cause?
I just have a question for Jonathan. Because you were referencing a large agenda and a backlog. Where are we with the forms? It was minutes reference that we're going to develop some standardized forms so we could submit everything up to the trustees. My thinking out loud is just that maybe next meeting would be a good meeting to start that. If they have a backlog and large agenda, just give them all the information first. So, that doesn't sound right. But I hope you know what I mean.
Yeah, no, thanks for the opportunity to address that. That initiative hasn't been implemented yet. Mary Lee and I have kind of drafted up a cover sheet, still working on exactly what we're going to put in there and how to implement that. I haven't forgotten, but that's still in the works.
Anybody else got anything?
Chairman, if no commissioners do, I certainly will wait till after, but I did want to point out two things or make two comments. One is just for information that the village board will be undertaking a kind of a revisiting of the strategic planning efforts that they conduct periodically. That'll begin in the late April and May timeframe. Certain aspects of that are initiated or led by the trustees. Others involve the public, and certainly there will be opportunities for the Plan Commission to participate. So I wanted to put that on your radar, and we can follow up with more specific dates. I believe it's late April that the effort kind of kicks off. And then second, just wanted to acknowledge, as I'm sure the commissioners saw in the news, the passing of Mary Ludemann's husband. I know Mary supports us here in the Plan Commission and Planning Department staff, and certainly our thoughts and prayers are with Mary and her family at this time of loss. So I wanted to share that as well.
Yeah, I think the Plan Commission also shares your feelings about the passing of Mary Kay's husband. He was certainly a valuable member of the community. Anybody else got anything? Hey, thanks for coming, guys. We're adjourned.